The NFL free agency period opens up on March 18th, but that doesn't mean we can't get our early predictions out now. Cassie, Soto, Myles, Simmons here inside of the Las Vegas Review-Journal studio. Myles, as always, great to have you here.
Always great to be here with you, Cassie.
Thank you. All right, well, let's start right off the top of this thing, Myles. Is Tom Brady, TB12, opening up Allegiant Stadium?
Yeah, it's the juiciest free agency rumor I think that the Las Vegas Raiders have right now. And I think if you really look at it, it probably doesn't necessarily make that much sense from a football standpoint if you're talking about Tom Brady and having to learn a very complicated offense that comes with Raiders head coach John Gruden. But at the same time, I mean, look, a lot of times when you talk about free agency, where there's smoke, there might be some fire. So it does appear that the Raiders are interested in Tom Brady, but at the same time, they're interested in really every single avenue to explore to improve the team. So I think when it comes to Tom Brady, they could be interested in him. When it comes to Jameis Winston, there might be some interest there too. So it's all of these free agent quarterbacks, and there really are a lot this year, Cassie, that could really change the dynamic of the NFL.
Yeah, well, you mentioned a name there. I don't know how much longer that jersey behind you will be up there, Myles, and it is no doubt that the Raiders do want to get better at the quarterback position. Who are some established guys that could really help this Raiders team?
Well, before we even get there, look, I think it's funny, you referenced Derek Carr and his jersey behind me. If the Raiders can go through their entire process of evaluation in this offseason, they could just decide that Derek Carr is still the best quarterback for the job. So we can start there. But I think where there's smoke, there might be fire.
Right.
And we have Mike Mayock on record talking to our Vinny Bonsinger saying that, look, we live in a Darwinian world when it comes to football, and every avenue needs to be explored to improve possibly every single position. So as we're saying here, so of the free agent quarterbacks, Jameis Winston is a guy who I think is actually very intriguing because he's young. You got to think about it. He was the first pick of the 2015 NFL draft, so he's still in his mid-20s. And he's thrown for the second most yards in NFL history throughout the first 5 years of his career. So if he goes to a team, he could potentially be the face of that franchise for the next 10 plus years based on the fact that he is still that young. But of course, we're talking about Jameis Winston. You got to talk about interceptions. The first quarterback ever to have 30 touchdowns, 30 interceptions in the same year. Another quarterback that's going to be a free agent that I find really intriguing is Ryan Tannehill. So he's the kind of guy, I mean, he had those seasons in Miami, never really got things going there, but he goes to the Titans, and then he ends up leading the league in passer rating and yards per attempt. You see what he can do with a really good running back. So think about, pairing him with Josh Jacobs, that could be really, really fun, right? Yeah. You get that play action, things going down the field and things like that. But it also appears that the Titans really, really want to keep him. So maybe Marcus Mariota, who's somebody that the Titans are probably going to let go of, maybe he gets to fulfill his potential as a number 2 overall pick behind Jameis Winston. So again, there are a lot of guys out there that the Raiders could potentially target.
Yeah, and another name I've heard also, that like sort of the Teddy Bridgewaters of the world, right? A guy that has gotten some good reps behind a potential Hall of Famer, future Hall of Famer, I should say, in Drew Brees. Someone like that who has had the experience. I think it led him on a 5-0 streak when he had to step up to the plate this past season.
Exactly, Cassie. I think Teddy Bridgewater did a really nice job filling in for Drew Brees, and it's actually worth noting as well that Drew Brees is going to be a free agent quarterback, but he has said it's going to be New Orleans or nothing for him. So I think we can probably kind of scratch him off that list. But with Bridgewater specifically, he's another guy. He's a former first-round pick. He had that catastrophic knee injury really right before that 2016 season, and then he's now been able to come back. He is healthy. He's shown that he can win you ball games with a good complement of weapons around you. But I think with Teddy Bridgewater specifically, he's not necessarily the kind of guy that's going to push the ball down the field like some of these other free agency quarterbacks. And when you look at his yards per attempt, it's just over 7, and that's pretty much where he's been throughout his entire career. But so that the question becomes, if you get a guy like Teddy Bridgewater, how much of an upgrade would it really be over Derek Carr, somebody who already knows the offense and already knows the offensive personnel? So that's something I think that the Raiders are going to have to weigh.
Yeah, well, as far as the Raiders' flexibility in their salary cap, how does that give them some wiggle room in the free agency period?
Well, it gives them a lot. I mean, they're a team that has some of the most cap room in the entire NFL. So when you're talking about this, they can go out and not just get a QB. Right? They could go out and get a wide receiver as well. Somebody else that could be a good pass rusher. Somebody else who could be a dynamic linebacker. Now, you're probably not going to get all of those things, especially if you do sign a QB in free agency, especially one of these top tier guys. It's going to command more than $30 million a year. Yeah. But at the same time, just given the amount of cap space they do have, they are going to have some flexibility with that in free agency.
All right, Myles. Well, thank you so much, as always, for stopping by and your insight.
Of course, Cassie. Appreciate it.
All right, for continued Raiders off-season coverage, download the Vegas Nation app or go to vegasnation.com. For Myles Simmons, I'm Cassie Soto. Thanks for watching.